But then against Arkansas, I'm thinking, okay, Tennessee will go back to what he does best. We'll see that high flying offense. Uh, Arkansas had been vulnerable to pass against UAB of all teams, and also Oklahoma State threw for over 300 on it. But man, this Tennessee couldn't block. They couldn't pass protect. Nico Yamaleava did not rise to the occasion and then made the unpardonable sin of just running out of bounds as the clock expired.
Another duly noted podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in Celebration Point. Okay, and welcome into another duly noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Dooley Dome Gator Studios. Yes, we are fine here in Gainesville. I know that there have been lights out, and look, we're fine where we are. That's the most important thing, especially because we have a family of four living with us, which we've had a great time with them. Good friends of ours, Ryan Halstead and Julie and Robbie, so we've had a great time just hanging out with them, and played games last night, watched movies, did all kinds of things, just like what people do and hurricanes. And but obviously there are a lot of people that have been through it about as rough as you can get it with this with Milton. Tore the roof right off the Tropicana field. Man, it was bad. Luckily we missed it. It went just a little bit south, didn't hit us that hard. So look, we're not reveling in that we didn't get it hit hard. We're just saying we didn't. But anyway, I hope everybody is safe out there. And I know our listeners are all over the world, not just the country, but all over the world. We get people in Ghana and Sweden. And again, these are displaced Gator fans who want to hear what's going on. So if you're overseas, a special hello to you. And if you're not overseas, then, well, if you're overseas, you stay safe, because you've got bigger problems than we do. The hurricanes, we know when they're coming. You don't know when ballistic missiles are going to strike or somebody's going to invade your country. And I mean, that could be any country over there. Anyway, enough with the world politics. Let's go ahead and get to our Gainesville Quarterback Club starting five, and that is brought to you, of course, by the Gainesville Quarterback Club, the oldest quarterback club in the country, and they do a great job. Actually, their speaker this week is going to be a great one. And I will say this: Ben Chase was really good Tuesday night. He explained NIL to everybody, and I know that a lot of it might have gone over some people's heads, including mine. But for the most part, I got a better idea about what's going on. I felt a lot better about what Florida's doing with NIL too. This Tuesday night, Dari Noka will be the speaker. Love Dari. He's a great guy, and he's always a lot of fun to listen to him when he's doing games, but also the studio shows. And he'll be the speaker on Tuesday night. If you want to get to be a member of the Quarterback Club, you can still sign up. You can even get the package where you don't have to be there. You can watch it on Zoom. I know there's a lot of people. In fact, there were several people, I think, that were ill that watch it on Zoom because they don't want to miss it. They want to be there. And that's the biggest thing about that Quarterback Club is, I met a guy last night or Tuesday night that I'm hoping to sell some podcast ads to. If I don't, I don't, but I'm just saying, I've met a lot of people through the in fact, Steve Wendig was there again last night. Saw him, or Tuesday night. God, I keep saying last night. It's hard to remember what day it is when you go through these kind of hurricane deals, though. But anyway, the Quarterback Club always does a great job, and we had a lot of fun there on Saturday night, and it'll be a lot of fun to see Dari Noka. It's always more fun after a win. We'll see if that happens as well. Let's get to our Gainesville Quarterback Club starting five. Let's start off with number one. And that is, all right. I mean, this is as simple as I can put it. Let's see what you got, Gators. Let's see what you got. If you don't have anything, we're back it's back to where it was before. And look, I told you guys about my epiphany. The Gator fans are no different than everybody else. They're different because they don't live in the South. They live in Florida. That's not the South. I've said that before, although there's a lot of Southern people in Florida. but all fans are the same. So my criticism of Gator fans is going to wane. And I know that you probably say it's about time. There's a lot of you are probably saying, no, I want you to keep it up because that's part of the problem. I don't think it's part of the problem. I really don't. I just don't think it's part of the problem. I think the problem is that Florida's hired coaches that have not been able to get the job done and maybe pulled the trigger too fast on some of them, and maybe hired coaches that were personality not fits, and they knew it when they hired them and they didn't work out. Will Muschamp's personality fit Florida beautifully. To be honest with you, I think Billy Napier's does to a point, although his laid back, quiet style maybe doesn't. McElwain never should have been hired here. I liked him, but and I know Florida as well as anybody. I know the inner workings of the firm, right? It was never going to work there. And Dan Mullen, you knew, and Scott Strickland. Look, if Dan Mullen was so good, why wouldn't he have gone after him right away? Why was he the fourth guy he went after? You got to think about that. He knew that Dan Mullen eventually would just totally combust, and he did. And that was why he isn't the coach here anymore either, and why he's on TV all the time. So anyway, that all said, that's a totally different point. Let's see what you have here, Gators, because I said before the year, your biggest game is Tennessee. And I know it's easy to say that, but this just was a year when it was easy to say a lot of other games that were. You could have made the argument that Kentucky was. You could have made the argument that Miami certainly was. You could make the argument LSU or Texas, or maybe you could have made the FSU argument earlier. Maybe not now. But my point is, I said right from the beginning, I thought Tennessee was the biggest game, and I think it still is. If they could somehow go up there and get this win, it changes the dynamic, not only for the fan base, for the players, for the coaches. I mean, you're on a 2-game win streak. Don't forget. I know it doesn't feel like it because you beat a crappy Mississippi State team, and then you got a week off, and then you beat a crappy UCF team. Well, go beat a team that just didn't play very well last week. And certainly we know that Tennessee didn't with their loss to Arkansas, and they shut them down. And maybe they gave the blueprint, to how to keep Tennessee's offense off the field. So we'll see, but that's the point. This is where we find out. Now, I know that in my mind, I'm also thinking we're going to find out over this next 7 games, the final 7 games of the year, because there's so many tough games on there. But this is the one, if they can get this win, now you start to, first of all, you come in from the ledge. You go back in the window. You shut the window and you go, anybody need a drink? That's the difference maker. If they lose this game, now you're inching towards jumping. You're saying, I'm going to jump. I don't even care if there's one of those big things. We watched The Fall Guy last night. They have those big inflatable things that you can jump on and will kill you. Even if they have one out there, you're going to jump. Or if they don't have one out, you're jumping either way. And that's the thing. Maybe Billy Napier in year 3 has learned how to win SEC road games. Now we saw what he did last week, or last SEC road game they had, where they got the win. Last year they beat South Carolina on the road. That was a big road win. So maybe he's figuring that out a little bit. We'll see. It'll be fun. We're going to have, I didn't mention this earlier, but I told you guys Brett McMurphy was going to come on the show, and Brett was right in the eye wall. And so he was evacuating, and I certainly understood that. In fact, I texted him and said, I'm assuming you can't do the podcast Thursday. And he said, yep, we're on the road evacuating. So, but we did great. We got John Adams, who I've known forever, has been a friend of mine. I worked for a long time with him in Jacksonville. And he'll come on. He'll tell us all about the Vols, and he knows Tennessee as well as anybody. So that'll be even better. Not that Brett's not a good guest. Brett's a great guest. We love having Brett on. So anyway, John will join us, and he'll tell you a lot about Tennessee. And what I'm going to tell you about Tennessee right now is don't pay too much attention to the stats, because they played a pretty soft schedule. Now, it wasn't supposed to be soft. NC State and Oklahoma and Arkansas, the 3 of your first 5 games, but NC State's turned out to be I think the biggest disappointment in college football this year. I think most people would tell you that. So they haven't been any good. Then they played, and the other 2 games were against one team. Kent State's 0-5 right now, and Oklahoma's not that good. We know that, and they beat them. But I look at the stats and I go, yeah, they're number 1 in rushing offense. They're number 1, I think, in rushing defense. They have a lot of great stats, and I was doing them for the quarterback club. In fact, I think here they are right here. They're 9th in passing offense. Okay, so Nico has not been great, and he's been sacked 10 times. So there's some stats to look at. They're the number 2 offense in the SEC. They lead the SEC in rushing. Okay, they are what they are. I mean, they got a pretty good team, but they haven't played well lately, and they really didn't play well last week. Now, they've had time to look at it and figure things out. They didn't have a bye, though. And they do have a couple of players that are questionable, like Squirrel White and Brew McCoy, who are 2 of their best receivers. They've got skill players that are better than Florida's. I'm just going to say that. I think Florida's catching up with them in that department. Especially the way I've seen guys play lately on the skill side. Elijah Badger, Shamir DK, they've both been pretty good lately. Florida get Trey Wilson back this week, that should happen. So Austin Barber being questionable is a very big concern for me when Billy put out the list Wednesday night. However, we'll see. We'll see what he can do and whether he can play. The guy to watch out for is Dylan Sampson. And I know you're going to say it's a quarterback and the receivers, but Dylan Sampson has been very successful running the ball. And that's when Tennessee's the most dangerous, is when they're a good running team and they can, balance that off the passing attack. And we'll see. He's already got 12 rushing touchdowns this year. Now, again, competition and everything, but I mean, Oklahoma's an SEC team and a legitimate one, a middle of the pack one. Florida still hasn't played a middle of the pack SEC team. They played a really good one and a really bad one. This isn't middle of the pack either. This is probably a really good one. I mean, I can still see a scenario where Tennessee gets into the SEC title game. We'll see how that all works out. But they are, the spread, I did want to tell you about the spread. It opened at 16. It's dropped a little bit to 15.5. A little high, I think. A little high. That's a lot of points. More than 2 touchdowns. Considering how many times Florida's beaten Tennessee in the last 18 years, that may be a little high. I know in my picks I do for the words are not coming out of my mouth. For my back 9 column, I did pick Florida in the points. However, for the quarterback club, where I also do the picks, I picked Tennessee because they don't use points. I think Tennessee's got a better team. I think they'll beat Florida. I will say this: I don't think the home crowd, it's an advantage, but it's not ridiculous advantage. That stadium goes straight up. It's way back and straight up, and like a lot of the people, you don't even think anybody can hear them. But it's an intimidating place to walk into. I'll say this: when you first walk out in that field for the first time at Neyland Stadium, and you look up, and it feels like the seats are going up to heaven. I mean, they're going up forever. It is intimidating, but you get over that pretty quick. I don't know why I've got a little yawning spell going here. Maybe it's because I just got up a little. All right. Let us move on to some spreads that are kind of got me freaking out. Now, I will say this, guys. This is not a great college football Saturday. But, of course, isn't that what we said last week? And how did it turn out? It turned out awesome. So it's not a great one. There are a lot of good games. There certainly are. To me, it's not just about the marquee games. You got 2 versus 4, 4 versus 7, all that stuff. It's about, oh, that's a game I want to watch. That's an interesting game. And I think we have plenty of those. I did want to give you a couple of spreads, though, that I just couldn't figure out. One of them, Vanderbilt. You know Vanderbilt, right? You remember them from last week or from Monday and from Saturday. Vanderbilt was just beat the number one team in the country. And I don't want to even say at home because there's no such thing as being at home for Vanderbilt. They still, it was mostly Alabama fans there. That's why Nick Saban said what he did. He wasn't ripping Alabama. He was just saying it's not a hard place to play because our fans dominated. That's what that's accurate. Florida fans dominated it when they would go there. They're 13.5-point underdogs against Kentucky. Now it's at Kentucky, and Kentucky's been playing a little bit better, but I don't know about that. I think that seems like a lot of points. Well, the Florida game we talked about earlier did seem like a lot. South Carolina is getting now. Who did Vanderbilt beat last week? They beat Alabama. Alabama is a 22.5-point favorite against South Carolina. Now, again, it's at Bryant-Denny, which I think is a hard place to play. Or I think it's the hardest in the league to play. And a lot of that has to do with, look, when Florida had Spurrier rolling and they had Werfel and they had Doring and when they had Tebow and Meyer and the Pounceys and all these guys, it was a hard place to come play. You know why? They were really good, and the crowd would get into it because they were doing good things. I do think like there are tough places to play, and I think that Tuscaloosa is one of the toughest. I think it's as tough as anybody. It's just being in the press box, just what it sounds like, and that's a way I have to judge it. But anyway, so that, and then Penn State 5.5-point favorite over USC at USC. Now, Penn State has been impressive, but not overly impressive. USC, if they lose this game, are going to be 3-3, and now you got to move a line on that hot seat thing that the Cattleman always likes to call us and tell us about. College coaches hot seat. I used to follow that site until it became a pay site, and I'm just curious what they thought. But they don't know. They're gonna have, they're just guessing. So anyway, those games are all going to be interesting, and those are going to be games you want to watch. I did think about this today. If the weather, the weather's going to be fine, right? And it's supposed to be totally cleared out of here, but I don't know what the condition of how soggy the golf courses are. But my plan really Saturday is going to be to go play some golf and not just sit here for 12 hours. I don't want to do that again. I did it last week. I did it the first week. I'm not doing it this week. I'm going to go play golf or go do something. Go sit in a bar and watch the games on TV. No, I'm going to do something. I promise you. All right. Let's move to number 4 on our Gainesville Quarterback Club starting 5, and that is the Dodgers. Man, it's a good thing they won last night, and they better win this next game, because if they paid $1 billion for over $1 billion for this group, and then they're out again, that's not going to go over well. Not that they matter. They got money to burn. But it is kind of weird. They did get the win last night, and they used 8 pitchers to do it. Now, that's what you have to do in baseball. The funny thing is, now I get it. You've got a star. You've got a go-to guy. You've got a closer. That's what you're going to do. You're going to set it up in a perfect world. My ace is going. He's going to give me 7. I got a setup guy for the 8th and a closer for the 9th. That's the baseball philosophy of lately. But I'm surprised more people don't go to, when they aren't sure who's the best guy to pitch, what the Dodgers did last night, and I've seen it done many times, pitch 8 guys. And that way they're all coming at you from different angles, and you can't the third time through the order. There is no third time through the order. I think it would work better. But then you don't get the feel. I understand why managers are reluctant to do it, but you get pressed into that during playoff baseball, and that's what the Dodgers did last night. It worked great for them. They blitzed the Padres. I got to admit, I will be rooting for the Padres Friday night. Tonight. That's tomorrow night. Yeah. I want to make sure I had that right. Yeah, it's tomorrow night they play the Padres. So, yeah, I'll be rooting for the Padres, even though the Padres knocked us out. I'm still going to be rooting for them. I just don't like the Dodgers. It's just the way I am. All right. Finally, number 5 on our Gainesville Quarterback Club starting 5. I did want to give credit to the Mets because I gave my friends who were Mets fans such a hard time when they were bragging when they took over the lead to get ahead in the division back 3 months to go in the season, like it was a big deal. And then they end up winning and they get in on the last day and they keep winning games. And that's what happens. Sometimes you get on a roll. We've seen this happen with the Braves. We've seen it happen with multiple teams who come from either wild cards or, teams that weren't considered favorites and win the whole thing. So we'll see if they can do it. Lindor's grand slam, man. I was watching it with a Mets fan, so it got a little loud on one side of the room. I don't dislike either, but I do. I root against both teams, and you know why. I'm a Braves guy. That's just natural. But I will say this. I wasn't like particularly rooting for the Phillies, but I was rooting for them more than I was rooting for the Mets. So I was a little disappointed in the result. But anyway, the Mets still alive and going to the NLDS. So somebody's had to beat the Mets. Beat the Mets. Meet the Mets. I don't think 3 of 5 is enough. Not at this point to see. Okay, I don't like 2 of 3, to be honest with you. I think 3 of 5 should be the first thing. You should have a chance if you make the playoffs to play a home game. And that's all you're guaranteed if you go 3 of 5. But 2 or 3, like for the Braves, they didn't get to play a home game. To me, if you get now you've advanced, you're one of the teams. You're not in a wild card anymore because you've advanced. You should get to play. I think you should play 4 of 7, and I think they should all be 4 of 7. And if they want to, they can make it 7 of whatever, 12, 7 of 13, 14. Sorry, I got excited there because I did have a logical theme one time that if the Braves could just play best of 48, they could win they would have won every world championship there for a while, but it doesn't work that way. Again, look, baseball people don't want to listen to me because I don't know baseball. I'm not a baseball fan. I am a baseball playoff fan. I'm a Braves fan. I'm not a baseball fan. The Cubs and the Padres are playing. It's the middle of August. It's not going to be on my TV, okay? It might be on the second one, and I glance at it. That's just not me. I'm a nut about football, and you know that. I'm an incredible golf fan, too much of a golf fan. But I would like to see baseball go to a 140-game schedule and have massive playoffs. Just almost like you would just be trying to, hey, we got to save our pitcher for the playoffs. That's what I would like to see. Now, the reason you can never see that, and they're never going to go away from 162, in my opinion, is because there are a lot of teams that don't make the playoffs, and they need every one of those 81 games to get that revenue. And they need, they want to play games that have been rained out because they need the revenue. And that's why baseball, the value of those clubs is unbelievable, how much they're worth. It's just incredible. Anyway, all right. I hope I didn't ramble too much there, but I hope you did enjoy our starting 5. We'll come right back with my good friend John Adams and talk to him about the balls. Let's see what's going on with ball calls. John Adams will join us from the Knoxville News Sentinel right after we take this break on another duly noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. Gator fans, football season is here. What's better than seeing the Gators back on the field? Easy. Seeing amazing speakers and fellow Gator fans weekly at the Gainesville Quarterback Club. Held every Tuesday night of a home game at the Best Western Gateway Grand. Enjoy happy hour, great food, valuable insights from yours truly and Andy Staples, plus notable speakers throughout the season. As the oldest Gator booster club in the world, Gainesville Quarterback Club gives you access to elite speakers like coaches, NCAA football insiders, Gator greats, and more. Share your passion for Gator football with hundreds of other members at weekly in-season meetings, home tailgates, and special events throughout the year. Join the Gainesville Quarterback Club today. Email the club at membership@quarterbackclub.org or visit thequarterbackclub.org. Or better yet, just give me a call and I'll get you to the right people.
Meldon Law has been serving personal injury victims since 1971. In those days, Jeffrey Meldon's presence as an attorney in the music scene dubbed him with the nickname the Hippie Attorney. And although times have changed, two things haven't: our commitment to bettering our community by helping the injured,
Albert, are you ready to go to the game?
and our love for the Florida Gators.
If you bleed orange and blue, Meldon Law is the firm for you.
Great food, great atmosphere, a diverse menu, everything made from scratch, plenty of space, and locally owned. These are all the characteristics of a great restaurant, and you can find each and every one of them right here in Gainesville at Ballyhoo Grill. Ballyhoo Grill prepares all of their food fresh every day, from their salad dressing to their award-winning soups. Bring your family and enjoy dinner under the Tim Trebo Tiki Hut while listening to live music. Or if you're running low on time to eat out, they also deliver through Uber Eats, Fight Squad, and Postmates. A Gainesville staple that's been open for over 30 years. Check out Ballyhoo Grill on Facebook or at ballyhoogrill.com.
Okay, welcome back to another duly noted podcast from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. It's a great pleasure to bring in my good friend John Adams from the Knoxville News Sentinel. I've known him for a long time. We used to work together back in Jacksonville. Boy, there's some stories there, isn't there?
Yeah, we left about the same time.
Yeah, I don't want any of those stories repeated, by the way. So we had fun there, though.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a fun ride while it lasted, but it was a short ride for me there.
Yeah, it was pretty short for me too. I do admire that you have a Tim Tebow oil painting up there in your wall.
Yeah, back here in my office, Melinda, my wife, was a huge Tebow fan. Her brother's an artist, so he did this oil painting of Tebow running the ball. Melinda used to go. She went to the Tennessee game when Florida played here in Neyland Stadium. She went to the game. She had her orange on, but under the orange jersey was a Tim Tebow shirt.
Well, I'm sure he won.
Well, yeah, goes without saying, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. By the way, a friend of mine just sent me this email, and he's a big Philly guy. He says, word is the Phillies are hiring Tony Vitello to be their coach.
Ah,
So there you go. Let's start that rumor, okay?
I don't think Tony wants to coach in the major leagues. He is friends with some of the Philly players.
That's what I think that's where this, how these rumors get started.
Oh, I know.
A equals B, B equals D, D equals X. So A equals X.
Tony Vitello's got a pretty good gig going in Knoxville.
Yeah, he does.
And with UT baseball. So I don't think he's angling for that Philly job. But I don't know if he was at the game. He might have been at the game because he's been there at Phillies playoff games before. There's somebody on the staff there, and then he's become friends with more players. So there's a strong connection. He's also big buddies with, he was with the Rangers too because of Max Scherzer, who pitched for him in Missouri when Tony was an assistant coach.
Yeah, and now he gets Wyatt Langford, so that's good.
Yeah, that's right.
We'll get it's like, the six separations of Kevin Bacon here,
Vitello really is well connected, though.
Yeah.
He really is. Got good people skills.
All right, let's talk a little football, Johnny. I mean, you had to be there are a lot of fans from Tennessee, obviously very disjointed after that loss, and I'm sure that they're ready to run Heupel out on a rail, like all fans do when they get mad when they lose. But what was your take from that game?
It was pretty stunning, really. Go back to the Oklahoma game. I thought Heupel did a really wise thing against Oklahoma, which has some terrific players on defense, really limited offensively. Their offensive line's a mess, a lot of injuries. So Heupel said, okay, we'll let our defense handle this. Got very conservative on offense. Also, that field was in horrible shape. Guys were tripping. And so I thought it made sense. But then against Arkansas, I'm thinking, okay, Tennessee will go back to what he does best. We'll see that high flying offense. Uh, Arkansas had been vulnerable to pass against UAB of all teams, and also Oklahoma State threw for over 300 on it. But man, this Tennessee couldn't block. They couldn't pass protect. Nico Yamaleava did not rise to the occasion and then made the unpardonable sin of just running out of bounds as the clock expired. Joe Milton did the same thing a few years earlier.
I remember that.
Yeah, those are the only two players I've ever seen, quarterbacks I've ever seen do that. I mean, you go down to the junior high level, a quarterback probably knows how much time's on the clock, down and distance, what I can do. It was just baffling what happened. But Arkansas, everybody, and I'm sure Florida will do the same thing, played the three-man front and put 5 or 6 guys in the secondary. Teams are going with a 3-2-6, and 3-2. We'll see that. You're seeing that more in the NFL now.
Yeah.
Where they just line up 3 safeties across, take away the deep ball. That's what they've done to Tennessee, but you got to adjust. NC State did the same thing. Tennessee went to a 2 tight end alignment, scored 51 points. No adjustments against Arkansas. I mean, Arkansas should have won the game by 17, 20 points. They were handling Tennessee, but under Sam Pittman, as you know, they find ways to lose games. That's just been their history. Yeah.
Well, at least you saved his job for a week,
For a week.
Yeah. But I mean, that's the thing about when you're trying to come in and stop the passing game, you're going to allow the run. And you know what Sampson's been able to do. I mean, he's got 12 touchdowns already. And he's run for over 500 yards. And that's the thing. Florida has not been good stopping the run. And I'm guessing if I'm Josh Heupel, I'm just going to try to pound him and see what I can get done.
Well, see, I thought UCF would be able to do that because they'd run the ball previously. Maybe it's hard to tell, Pat, early in the season because so many of these teams are scheduling straw men that you can just knock over, flip it with your finger and knock them over. And so we don't get a good read on just how good these teams are. UCF looked really good running the ball. Then Colorado handles it with ease. And then Florida holds it to just over 100 yards rushing. So I think you're right. Tennessee, you would think they could maybe do that, but also maybe Florida's gotten a little better.
Yeah, that's what that was the opening segment I had in the show today was, all right, let's see, Gators, what do you got? Because all right, we've heard enough. We've seen you beat 3 bad teams. We've seen you lose to 2 really good teams. In fact, I think from what you've seen, A&M's way better than I thought they were going to be. I had no idea, and so is Miami.
Yeah, I agree. See, A&M, every year, I think A&M is going to be pretty. My expectations, and I'll catch myself, and it's like a mental illness. I say, well, you thought that last year, and look what happened. And you thought that the year before, and look what happened. I said, I know, but I think this year's different. And it never is. A&M should not have lost
because Jimbo's not there anymore.
Well, but A&M has a long history of this, but A&M shouldn't have lost to Notre Dame at home. It really shouldn't. Connor Wigman looked horrible in that game throwing the ball at quarterback. And so I'm thinking, okay, here I go. So I picked Missouri to beat A&M. I said, I'm not picking A&M. I'm just not doing it. And lo and behold, they looked like the best team in the SEC. Yeah. And I saw what they did against Florida. I mean, they got some physical players. So it's hard to figure from game to game who's going to do what.
Yeah. At first, I really thought the SEC was stupidly top heavy. You had Texas, you had Georgia and Alabama, you had Tennessee, maybe LSU, Ole Miss. Then Ole Miss goes and loses a game I never thought they'd lose, and they just keep going down. I go, well, maybe there is more parity. And we know Mississippi State's the worst team. That much we know. But I don't think the other. I mean, the 1 through 15 is not that different, you know.
No, and see, but I thought the same thing you did. I concluded, I mean, okay, Vanderbilt beat Virginia Tech to open the season. That was a really nice win
Yeah,
for Vanderbilt. I mean, Virginia Tech, a mediocre ACC team, but still, it's Vanderbilt. So what does it do? 2 weeks later, it loses to Georgia State. So, and I watched South Carolina against Old Dominion, and I watch way too much football, obviously, but
yeah,
I
I'm the
watched,
same way. Yeah,
yeah, I know. I'm watching something Old Dominion. I mean, some people don't even think Old Dominion has a football team, and they easily could have beaten South Carolina. I said, well, I know one thing about the SEC. South Carolina is the very worst team in the conference. And then he goes up to Lexington and wins by 25. And then Kentucky almost beats Georgia. So I don't know. I just feel like you just got to roll with it. And every
Yeah.
week you reach a new conclusion.
just let it wash over you, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. And see, I don't think when I was watching a Georgia-Alabama game, and it was a great game, so much drama in it. The big lead, Alabama looks like world beaters. Georgia comes back. But I came away from that game thinking, I'm not sure either one of these teams are that great. And then when I saw what happened to Alabama against Vanderbilt, I mean, Georgia hasn't looked real. They looked really good against Clemson in the second half, but other than that, I just don't think Georgia's as good as it was when it won back-to-back national titles, or maybe even last year.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. What is the feeling among the Vol faithful now? Because that was a tough loss for them, and to lose that game, and now they're going to face their arch rival, the team that always ruins their season. Where are they? Where's their mindset among the Tennessee fans?
Well, it's kind of what you would think. I mean, there's always some trepidation about Florida just because of the history. I mean, Florida could go out to a convenience store and find 22 people to play for it against Tennessee, and Tennessee fans, oh my God, they've got that convenience store offense they're going to run. We'll never stop them. No, but it's.
I think they did that 2 years ago. They did get a guy from the convenience store to go pay.
Remember when Trey Harris? I think that was his name.
Treon Harris, yeah, he beat him.
Treon, yeah. I mean, come on. And so you go from Tim Tebow to Treon Harris, and Florida still wins. However, so yeah, there's that factor anyway. So it's Florida. But the Arkansas game was just stunning to Tennessee fans because here's this offense, this grand offense of Josh Heupel's. Now's had 2 back-to-back games. It's more of a defensive team. So, yeah, and then after Arkansas, I think fans are really concerned about what they're going to see because Tennessee had it all set up. I mean, if it wins, if it's a 13.5-point favorite, it wins that game. And you look at Alabama losing, Georgia's already lost, Ole Miss is lost, Missouri gets hammered. Everybody's got a loss except Texas. You're there with Texas, and you got Georgia and Alabama split with them. You're 11-1, and you're good to go.
Yep.
And now I just don't know. And go back to last year's game. Graham Mertz. The way that game started out, he's a very accurate passer. They completed those short passes, moved the ball on Tennessee. Tennessee's got a really good defensive front. So you don't want to put pressure on your quarterback. You don't want to let it where those guys can just turn loose and rush the guy. But if you can do what Florida does, hit those short passes, which reminds me, is Wilson going to be able to play at wide receiver? Do we know that?
He will. He dressed out last week, and they just decided he needed another week. So he was out there running around before the game, but they didn't play him. And so my gut is now they've got a couple other guys that are out, and I know that so does Tennessee. Has a couple questionable, Brew McCoy and
I think McCoy will play.
Yeah.
Do
you think they'll play though? Probably.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I don't know about. There's one of them that's listed as questionable now. I don't know how much we trust that stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, you go back to last year before they had this mandated thing about announcing injuries and the status. I remember last year, I mean, it was like Cooper Mays, who didn't play against Florida Tennessee Center. He's one of their best players. Uh, I mean, he was hurt early on, and every week it was like, well, he may be ready to go this week. And he missed like 6 weeks, you know?
He was the Cam Rising of that year.
Cameron. Oh my gosh. Is he injured again? I think he is, isn't he?
This is on. I got this down to put on my Hesser and Kipke 3 things. Number 3, Cam Rising may not play again. So I mean, it's like it's unbelievable. It's like every week, it's like, well, he may go. I don't know. We're not sure. Yeah,
They were
play
going
all
into
year.
preseason last year,
Yeah.
like he might be ready for the opener, and he missed the whole year.
Yeah, missed the whole year, and then he plays one game, gets hurt. They say every week he's coming back, but he never is. So
He needs to transfer and get like an 8th or 9th year of
well,
eligibility.
he's already in his 8th, I think. So it's pretty amazing. So what in your mind is the strength of this team? Because I know that the big fear, I think, I'm not just talking about Gator fans, but for everybody in this conference was that, wow, Tennessee looks like they've got a defense to go with a Heupel offense. And now they've got the defense. They don't have the Heupel offense for some reason.
Yeah, I think the strength of the team is the defensive front. They rotate 12 guys. I mean, they look like those great Georgia and Alabama defensive fronts against Oklahoma. But even more so because they're bringing in guys. They brought in guys. I mean, I'm checking the press guide for a number. I can go backups when you get down to the third unit. Who is this guy? But they all look like they weigh 300 pounds and can move.
Mhm.
They're really good. So what Arkansas did was with Taylor Green, who's a really mobile quarterback, he was able to get outside containment and throw some, on the run. Arkansas got 297 yards passing. What Florida doesn't want to do is get in 3rd and 8 and
Right.
have to throw the ball
I
against
understand.
Tennessee, because I think Jermon McCoy, the cornerback transfer from Oregon State, is really good, and teams are probably starting to not throw to his side, but the rest of the secondary remains questionable. I mean, Arkansas doesn't have elite receivers, but those guys are getting open and making plays. So that, to me, if Florida can find, if it can block it. And what's Florida's offensive line? What do you think of Florida's offensive line right now?
Well, Barber's on the questionable list, and he's their best offensive lineman. And Jake Slaughter's played really well at center. Everybody else, it's up in the air. They rotate them a little bit, and they have not played. No, put it this way: were they good against Miami? Absolutely not. They were bad. Were they bad against A&M? Yeah. Were they good against the 3 bad teams they played? They were terrific. So it feels like they're playing at the level of the competition, but you've got to play up to the level of the competition. And I'm not sure they're good enough to do that. So that'll be. I would think, and again, I haven't seen this in 3 years from Billy Napier, his offensive staff, but I would think Billy Napier would try to get creative in the passing game, more rollouts, more bootlegs, more trying to get the guy out of the pocket. And maybe play Lagway more as a result. Will that happen? I have no idea, because I've seen the same offensive game plan for 3 years.
Well, it's almost mandatory they do that against Tennessee.
Yeah.
And I could see Graham Mertz has been a better quarterback than I thought he would be when he transferred there.
He's good. He's been fine. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think in this game, maybe Lagway, because of his mobility, might help Florida more. But like I said, if you get 3rd and long and those guys, and you can't handle their pass rush, you're going to have a long night. It could really get ugly, because that's one thing Tennessee can do, is they can get after you with that defensive front, and they keep guys fresh. They don't usually drop off in the 4th quarter like some teams' pass rush will kind of ebb there in the last quarter. It's not happening with Tennessee. So it would really help Florida too, if it can come out and run the ball a little bit.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. I mean, Florida's going to want to run the ball. And I mean, their run defense is, it's okay. Tennessee's, but maybe they can get it going.
I tell you, Arkansas has a couple of good. They got a couple of big guys. They start out with that Jaquin Jackson 230, and they bring in that Russell dude's 250.
I know. He's so big. He looks like he should be playing defensive line, but he can move, man.
Yeah, they ran the ball a little better than I thought they would against Tennessee.
All right, John Adams from the Knoxville News Sentinel coming to us on our Big Mills Cheesesteak Zoom line, which means it's time to play Yes, No, Where, Maybe with John. Brought to you by Big Mills Cheesesteak. Street dining done the right way. If you go and say, "Hey, I heard that John Adams guy on the Dooley podcast," you get free French fries with your order. So how about that? Yeah. So next time you're down here, you can say
that. I heard me on this. Yeah. Okay.
That's the thing. The thing is, John and I are now, we don't like to leave our cities that much anymore. We like staying here.
Yeah.
It's road games on TV.
It's a complete about face from a good portion of my career when I was just gone.
I used to go to my boss and go, "Look, I won't rent a car. I'll get a ride. And I think I can stay with this guy if I can go to this Final Four or something like that, you know, and just to go, I wanted to be there. And now I'm like, the Final Four is on TV. You know where I'm going to be watching."
I had a car. I rented a car at the company's expense for 2 years. I had a car. Yeah. That Toyota Camry. What?
That beats the John Hollis story. John Hollis rented a car because his car wasn't working, drove to Orlando to catch a plane, left it there, they flew to Phoenix. While he's in Phoenix, it turns out they're playing he flew to Seattle. They finds out they win 2 games, they're going to play in Phoenix, says, "Why go home?" So basically the car stayed there for over 2 weeks. And it's $28 I think an hour to parks or something like that.
I had it figured out that all these trips I would make, I said, here's what I would make if I rent a car. And Avis used to have a pretty good deal. They had like an 11-month rental.
Really?
And I worked it out where it's very similar. So I just kept the car. Of course, I drove it on my own too, but
yeah.
That company no longer owns us, so I think I'm safe.
Those are the good old days, man.
Yes, they were.
But I do enjoy our time now because this is the time when you have to be able to just sit back and watch games.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, here's our questions for Yes, Nowhere, Maybe with John Adams. John, you wish your middle name had been Quincy?
No.
You sure? At the no way?
I'm not a big, but actually when I worked in Pittsburgh for a year, they call me Quincy.
Was that around the time Jack Klugman was making medical examiners famous?
No.
All right, number 2 on Yes, Nowhere, or Maybe. Florida Tennessee juice for this game would be about 33%.
Yeah.
That's the way I see it. I don't feel it here, and I know it's not a home game, but I was just wondering if it was more palpable up there.
Yeah, I just, and I don't want to know the state of the fan base at Florida is. Having been around it for many years, I would think it's not really great. Even though, I mean, I know it won, it beat UCF and it beat Mississippi State, but those aren't marquee victories that you know.
No. I think people right now are just saying, like I said, we're going to find out. This game's going to tell us everything we need to know, and then we'll move on from there.
A lot of tough games coming down the road.
Oh, I know. All right, number 3. I actually dropped my notebook. Number 3 on Yes, Nowhere, Maybe. Alabama still finds its way into the SEC title game.
Process of elimination, I'll say yes.
You know, that's the thing is I still think it's going to be Tennessee and I'm sorry, Texas
Texas A&M.
and Alabama, and that'll be a great game.
Yeah, and Georgia's just got a tougher schedule than Alabama does from here on out.
Georgia's got to go to Ole Miss. They got to go to Texas, and they get Tennessee at home, though, right?
Yes, Tennessee at home.
So that's going to be a tough game.
Well, Kirby Smart's calling out their fans for not being loud enough.
That's beautiful.
Well,
hey,
I mean,
well, maybe if you'd won the last game.
Hey, don't fall behind 28-0 and they'll be louder.
That's right. All right, we got to let you go. You got another thing coming up. I know it's always great talking to you, John. I wish I was seeing you in the press box more often, but since neither one of us go to them, we're never.
Well, no, you look pretty good on video. I'll settle for that. Thanks,
right.
Pat.
All right, good seeing you again. We'll be back with more of another Duly Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios.
Titan MRI, North Central Florida's premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. At Titan MRI, we're focused on you, the patient, having a great customer experience. Our MRI equipment is modern and 75% quieter than any unit in its class. And our MRI unit has one of the largest openings of any of the newer high-strength MRI units, which allows comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic and larger patients. At Titan MRI, we look forward to serving you.
Adams Rib Company has been a staple of Gainesville for more than a decade and a staple of the Dooley house ever since Kelsey's teeth came in. The first time I walked into Adams, I told my daughter that the green beans are always a test of a great barbecue restaurant, and they were perfect. You know about the ribs that melt in your mouth, and my favorite, the turkey plate. But be sure to go in on Fridays for Nana's Fish Nuggets. They will melt in your mouth. Adams Rib Co., a Gainesville great. Another Duly Noted podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Celebration Point. You can watch and listen to us on Facebook and YouTube for every podcast that we do on Mondays and Fridays at 2 o'clock. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, any of the other 39 platforms where you can find this podcast or your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below or call me if you want to do some advertising at 352-317-3444. Okay, welcome back to another Duly Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. Again, hope everybody is safe from this terrible storm that we went through. I know up in our area it didn't get too bad. It went way south. Obviously took the roof off the Tropicana Field. Maybe that's another reason not to have it there. But we just want everybody to be safe. It's a tough deal. And, again, we're sitting here. We still have all the trees and everything that are down that I chopped up from the last hurricane that they weren't able to get to. And I'm not blaming anybody. That's a hard deal. So I'm sure they'll get to it eventually, man. But it's a rough thing for everybody. In fact, somebody said our at least in our neighborhood, our trash pickup will be Saturday. So I have to get it out there Saturday. All right, let's get to our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. And we always love our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. Thanks, Ken, for that tip on Tony Vitello. Hey, you know that John's going to say that to somebody, and then it's going to become a rumor. You're going to hear it come back to you, even though it may not be true. But he is close to a lot of guys up there. All right, let's get to our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. It's brought to you, of course, by Hesser and Kipke, a Gainesville firm here for your needs in family law or workers' compensation. Call or text Ken and Jennifer 24/7 at 352-339-9920. Hesser and Kipke, nearly 50 years of combined legal experience and about to celebrate their 5th anniversary in January. I hope I'm invited. That's all I can say. I hope I'm invited to the party, but I'm sure I will be. Ken and Jennifer are great. Love being around them. Love going over there and seeing them and playing in our tournament every year and sponsoring our tournament. So let's get to our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. Number 1 would be what happened with Aaron Rodgers, who basically, now, you never know what's really going on. I just kind of listen to what the main beat guys are saying. And even then, they sometimes have agendas. But Aaron Rodgers, their team's not playing very well. They fire the coach. The rumor is Rodgers and he didn't get along. Rodgers has his way of doing things. Saleh, I mean, I was pretty low-key guy. I thought they would get along great and said nothing but good things about him. But then when he gets fired and everybody says, he's out because Aaron Rodgers wanted him out. And then you go and go to Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers says, no, I love the guy. That's bull. You guys are making that kind of stuff up. And then everybody says, no, we're not. And then now I don't know what to think. And then I read the Lupica column, which I didn't even know Mike Lupica was still writing, to be honest with you, but it popped up somewhere on something I was reading. And Mike Lupica is a very good writer, very, very good writer. I like him a lot. But I don't read the New York papers very much, so I didn't know he was still writing. But anyway, he said he got rid of Saleh because of his play. And that's a good point, too, that if he had been better, Saleh would still have a job. So it's not that the offense was literally or was that bad or the defense, whatever. The bottom line was they weren't good enough to score enough points. And if he played better, if Aaron Rodgers had been better, Saleh would still be there. And that's a good point. I agree with that point. And I kind of am enjoying the drama there. The drama. You got to love a little drama in your NFL experience. All right, let's get to number 2 on our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. I want to throw this out there. The Gators won the Barbara Nicholas Cup, which you probably didn't know what that was. You didn't even know it existed. But the Barbara Nicholas Cup, you take 3 young men from your team and 3 young women from your team, and they play against teams, and whoever wins the most points, and the Gators, Mighty Gators, got the win. So congratulations to them for getting that win. It's always, anytime you win something that has the Nicholas name on it, it's worth a little more. Yeah, that is the brand right there. No, I know Tiger's the brand, but the brand, Palmer and Nicholas started branding. That was the beginning of it. And to me, Nicholas is always going to be the brand. So that was number 2. Number 3 on our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. I do want to mention this again, even though we talked about it. Cam Rising, they've got another, they didn't play last week again. He's only played 1 game this year. Didn't play last year. Was told every week he was day to day. Now he's still day to day. But now there's talk that he may be done. They may just shut him down. He's got a broken hand, I think, this time. And they may just shut him down. I feel bad for him. Not only can he not play, and he obviously wants to play, or he wouldn't still be at Utah, but every time he sits out, it's just taken away from his NFL possibilities. I feel bad for him. The guy's a good player. But it is one of the most bizarre stories. Now, this goes back to why I think the SEC and the Big Ten have come out with these availability things, but they want to make it even more of an injury report, and they want everybody. They want it to be a league. When I say league-wide, the new league, the new super league, when it gets to whatever it is, 60 people or whatever, how many it is, Utah, you'll be in it. You're invited in, but you've got to play by these rules. You've got to let us know if guys aren't playing. Okay? That's all we're asking you. We'll see what happens. And Whittingham could be gone by then anyway. I mean, he's closing in on retirement. There's been a lot of conjecture that he is going to retire after this season. So we'll see how that goes. But that is kind of the Utah traditions, not to tell you when their guys are hurt. Look, Florida went into that Utah game last year going, we think we can win this game because we know Rising isn't playing. They knew it was they talked to their own doctors and said, hey, if a guy tears 4 ligaments, can he come back inside a year? And they said no. And so they said, prepare for the other guy. Then what did he do? Throw a touchdown on the first play. So maybe they didn't prepare enough for the other guy. Anyway, that is our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. I appreciate everybody for being a part of it. All right, let's get to, you can tell my sleep level is not very high through all this stuff, eyes are kind of half wide shut. There will be a nap in my future, and that future will begin when I sign off here. Believe me. All right, let's get to our Leonardo's and Millhopper quick picks. We're giving you two big spreads, man. I love big spreads. I love sauce and dough, and I also love big spreads. I like big spreads, and I cannot lie. All right, we're not going to see. This is how tired I am. I'm singing. You never want me singing. All right, I'm giving you Florida. I'm giving you 15.5. Take them or give them away. Tennessee is 15.5 point favorite. Now that spread could go down, but that's where we're establishing it. And then the other one is South Carolina. I mentioned this earlier, 22.5 point underdog at Alabama. Now, at Alabama, at Tennessee is a big part of that. But Tennessee lost last week. Florida won. Think about if it had gone the other way, what the spread would have been. It might have been in the 20s. But those are two really big spreads. Florida plus 15.5 against Tennessee. South Carolina plus 22.5 against Alabama. Those are your Leonardo's and Millhopper quick picks. And just so my man Kyle over at Leonardo's knows, I have bought and he has given me several gift certificates for our contest, but I've also taken one of them and I'm putting him in so he'll be represented in the 1984 golf tournament, which will be Friday. And I did want to pump that up a little bit. Friday, not this Friday, but next Friday, the 1984 team will be honored. Team that won the first SEC championship. They have their rings. There's somewhere in Gainesville, there's a trophy. We just got to find it. They'll be here for a whole weekend of activities, and they're having a tournament out at Ironwood on Friday, and there are openings for it. You can just call out to Ironwood and find out how to get on there. I'm going to be playing in it, and I'm putting together a nice prize package for them so they can have some cool stuff. And it's including, like I said, $25 from Leonardo's, because I know Kyle would love to do that. But I mean, that's coming out of my pocket. Okay, just so we don't want to get. I don't want anybody getting mad at me. And I also am throwing in some nopals too. I've talked about this before. My friend Jesus over at Nopal struggling a little bit. Wants to get the word out, make sure people know they're back going good. They were he was out for a while, but the place stayed open. I mean, and I was there several times, but I'm always asking for Jesus. Anyway, I'm gonna throw $25 into that pile again. I did that for our winner of our last contest as well. So I'm just giving away gift certificates everywhere. They're cats and dogs. All right, so those are our picks. I guess that's where I left that off, right? Okay. All right, those are our picks. Let us get to our Adams Ribco Gator of the weekend. Gator of the week, I should say. Gator of the weekend is going to be interesting, but Gator of the week, I went with Jeremy Crawshaw. I mean, he was named the punter of the week. That's pretty good. The Ray Guy punter of the week, the best punter of all time, punter of the week, and that's pretty good. So it feels like Crawshaw is no longer going to have those one shank a game situations. He's pretty steady right now, and hopefully Smack gets it back together after missing that kick. But special teams, I've had no problems with them. Let's put it that way. So far, we're only 5 games in though. But anyway, the Adams Ribco Gator of the week is Jeremy Crawshaw. And he can go in there and there'll be no shrimp on the barbie, but they have shrimp kebabs and they're really good, man. Go to Adams, get some food, put into your mouth. It's good. All right, let's move along to our Hugh Cain Allstate Mayhem moment.
The Gator Nation is in good hands with local Allstate agent Hugh Cain. Stop by Alachua Marketplace Plaza in Alachua and get a free quote today.
Yeah. This is mayhem at its worst. This is real mayhem, which is not only are we dealing with a hurricane, but it is spawning off all these tornadoes. And this is just one of many from down in that South Florida area that came through. There was another one in Claremont. And that is a mayhem moment. And I'm not making light of it, but this is where people like Hugh, Cain, Allstate come to work and help you with your plan and making sure you have the right insurance. So just wanted to use that for our Hugh, Cain, Allstate mayhem moment. Thank you to Hugh, Cain, Allstate. We've had a lot of conversations too over the last few days. See, that's a great thing. A lot of these people are friends of mine who want to be part of this, but some of them are new friends that I make, and they get to be sponsors, and then we start texting back and forth about different things, and then we become friends for a long time. And it's kind of funny. Most of the friends I have in this town weren't friends of mine when I moved here. Almost all of them are people I even met at the gym, the Joe Calorios, Mike Martins, Paul Gardners of the world, or met somewhere else. And it's cool. I love it. I love Gainesville. It's a great place to live. So that's my service announcement for the day. All right, let's get to our this, that, and the other. This, that, and the other is brought to you by Ironwood Golf Course. That's who it's brought to you by. There was just a flash there for just a minute, like my screen flashed, and I was like, am I still on the air? It's brought to you by Ironwood Golf Course. It is also brought to you by Dar Shackow Insurance, Johnny Dar, our good friends over there, and by my buddy Bill Reichert at Ballyhoo Grill, where we may end up tonight maybe have some gator tail. And I may go for gator tail today. Love gator tail. And he supplies it for our golf tournament every year. Every year. It costs a lot of money. Gator tail is not cheap. You don't just walk outside and go, hey, yeah, there's some gator over there. Let's get some gator and just pull it in, cut it off the tail. I do feel bad when I eat gator tail, but I like it. I like it. They've got the best gator tail there is. Usually you get gator tail, it's a little chewy, kind of like calamari. But this gator tail is like melting your mouth. It's unbelievable. So good. All right. So this, that, and the other. Let's go back to the beginning of the season. And I'm not picking on anybody here. I just want that to be said. Beginning of the season, FSU fans were pretty confident. They go, hey, look, went 13-0 last year, got screwed out of the playoffs. Everybody knows that. Coach is still back, got a lot of the players back. We got DJ Uiagalelei from Oregon State, where he did really well. We got some other guys in the portal. We think we've done fine in the portal. This guy's the king of the portal. We're going to be fine. And look at our schedule. It's really not that hard. We should be able to breeze through it. We could do 13-0 again. All right, so that was the beginning of the year. That was the this. That was it hadn't gone too well. They're 1-4. Is it 4 or 5? They're 1 and something. And really, the one game they won, they should have lost. People keep asking me what's going wrong there. I'm just like, look, I think this is the new world of the portal. If you're going to rely on the portal, and I would say half the teams in Power 5 do rely on it. Maybe not that many, but they use it very much. Even like Georgia uses it a ton. Even though they're really good at recruiting, they use the portal a lot. So if you use the portal, you don't always hit. And especially if you use the portal and now again, Georgia's an elite level program. There aren't too many of those. Alabama's an elite level program. Ohio State. I don't even want to put Michigan in there. There aren't too many of those, but the high level programs are the other ones like that. And you're not going to hit on them every time. You're going to have days where you relied on the portal and it just didn't work. And I think that's what's happened with them. Now, in a perfect world, you're good enough with the guys you recruited to overcome that. And maybe you go 9-3, but you don't go 1-4, and who knows how it's going to go for them. But I was wondering this by the way, today we find out more bad news for FSU. DJ Landry, defensive player, is out for the year. He didn't play last week either, but he's out for the year, and they've had some injuries too. But let's move on to the other, which is there is a tradition in this house, and that is, now it doesn't include my relatives in South Florida, but it's just my wife, anybody who might be here. When Florida plays FSU, since FSU is usually the one that's got a chance to do something and have a good year, we root for Miami. And down in South Florida, they don't like that. They go, "How can you root for Miami?" Well, we root for Miami. I'd rather see FSU lose. Now, this year, with that theory in mind, do I have to root for FSU? That is bothering me. I've never rooted for FSU. Well, I mean, I used to root for FSU. I was a kind of an FSU guy back in the olden days when Reggie King was playing basketball and Dave Cowens. I loved those teams. I actually covered FSU for a long time. But, now things change. You grow up, you mature, you find out what's really important in life. You don't want to be an FSU guy, right? So anyway, that's my point, is who do I root for? And I'm leaning towards FSU. Now, that would be the win that would make up for everything. They could beat FSU and Florida, and don't think they can't beat Florida, because they can. They could beat FSU and Florida and go, I know we went 5-7, but it wasn't that bad. We'll take it, and we'll be back next year. That could happen. You could see them do that. So we'll see what happens. But at the same time, I don't want Miami to have any chance to win in that. I know they're going to get in the playoff. I don't want them to go far in the playoffs. That's where I am. All right. That is our This, That, and the Other, brought to you by Ironwood, by Darshakow Insurance, and by Ballyhoo Grill. Let's finalize it with our swamp games of the weekend. We always like to give these to you at the end of the day on Thursday, so you know how to plot it out. Some of you get your pens out and you write them down. I've been told that by people. I write everything down, and I know this is what I got to look for. Okay, so here's what you're looking for. Let's go to Friday baseball. San Diego at Los Angeles. That is on at 8:05 on Fox, and it is to advance. You gotta love those winner goes home games. San Diego, LA. I know I'm rooting for San Diego in that game. There's no doubt about that one. Also on Friday, you have some football if you want to watch it. Northwestern at Maryland, not doing a lot for me. That's on Fox, and that's at 8 o'clock. UNLV at Utah State. It'll be on. I'll just leave it at that way. And that's on the CBS Sports Network, and that is at 9. So at least you'll have something to watch. If you really want to stay up and watch Utah at Arizona State, it might be an interesting game, but it's also starting at 9 o'clock on. Oh, I'm sorry. It starts at 10:30 on ESPN. So it's on ESPN, but that's a 10:30 start. So that's late. All right, let's get to our Saturday games, which is the state game. Really, I think is you probably have to go with this USF game. They've got Charlotte 3:30 on ESPN2. That's not Charlotte. I can't read this. I got to get my glasses to read this. I don't think I can read it with my glasses. It's so poorly written. Oh, it is poorly written. It's Cincinnati. That's who it is. I didn't want people, hey, look, I give you guys credit. When I make mistakes on this show, I hear about it. You guys are always doing a great job of calling me out. Hey, Dooley, there's a reason you don't pick 3 teams from the SEC in your top 12. You can't have 3 teams. Oh, right. So I appreciate it. No, it's Cincinnati at USF. It's the best state game we've got going. Now, again, FSU and Miami are off. Florida, we don't put that game in there. You know when that game is. It's at 7:45 or something. 7. No, it's at 7. The Florida game. Anyway, Cincinnati at USF, 3:30 on ESPN2. The SEC best game, Ole Miss at LSU, 7:30 on ABC. See, in a perfect world, this is what I do. I go, I play golf, I have a nice dinner with my wife somewhere. We play golf together, maybe. We go have a nice dinner. We get home, we shower, and I just lean back and I haven't watched any. Let me catch up on what happened in college football today. Oh, that happened. That's interesting. And then just lean back and watch that game, and then watch our national game of the week, which is Ohio State at Oregon at 7:30 on NBC. So ABC and NBC. If you don't have the great 2 TV setup like I have, it won't be hard to flip though. You're going 7-9, 7-9. I don't even know if there is an 8. You may only have to flip it once. Your thumb will not cramp up on you. I promise you that. All right, and then probably the best game to watch on on Sunday. Jeez, I'm tired. I'm ready to go to bed. All right, Sunday, you have a Sunday morning game. Yay, over in London. Jacksonville at Chicago, 9:30 in the morning on NFL Net. Now, I will say this. Last week, I'd forgotten there was a game, and then I went, oh, I think the Dolphins are playing. No, they're not. Who's playing that game? And I forgot who it was, and then I realized it was Vikings, and hey, I'll watch that game and root for the Vikings and make Robbie happy. So I only watched the end of it. I only watched the fourth quarter, but sometimes you forget that. The night game is Baltimore at the Giants, and that game is 8:15 on NBC. Now that doesn't look like Baltimore either. I gotta get these. This is sad. No, it's the Bears. All right, and then what was the other game? Oh, that's it. All right, and you got a ton of games on Sunday. You know that. There's a ton of games on Saturday too. We just tried to give you the best ones. It's been an ordeal today, and I'm not saying it in a negative way. I'm just tired. I'm tired, and that's what I am. And I'm going to take a long nap. Then I'm going to get up, and I'm going to be all refreshed for a nice Thursday night of NFL football, Major League Baseball, blah, blah, blah. I'm ready for it, man. Oh, there's college football tonight, too, but it's nothing to write home on. I know that's going to do it for our show. And I do appreciate the great Zach Rothrock for doing such a great job of dealing with us and dealing with the hurricane. And for John Adams for coming on, was very nice of him to do that. And he was great. I'm glad we had him on, and he was terrific, as he always is. All right. We will be back on Monday with Coach Spurrier. Next Thursday, I'm still not sure who it's going to be. It may be Brett McMurphy coming back on, and I'm going to let him wait till he gets settled before I ask him. And then the following Thursday, Danny Werfel. I have my hands like this. I should. Danny Werfel is going to join us, and I can't wait for that. That'll be a lot of fun. So we got a lot of good things coming up, and hopefully you guys are really interested in what we're doing. We still have a couple of sponsorships that just opened up, so if you want to get involved in that, you can as well. We're really getting great response on everything. The numbers, the sponsors, everything. It's great, man. It's great. It's gnarly. All right, let's get out of here. Let me go take a nap. I think I'm feeling delusionary. Let's go take a nap. We'll be back again on Monday with Coach Spurrier. Until then, I am Pat Dooley for Zach, saying I am deep, I'm way back, and I am out of here.